first of all, thank you for joining this session. And one of the reasons I am particularly pleased to have this opportunity is that I'm currently located in Belgium, Brussels, which is one proof more than first, technology is wonderful, even if sometimes troubleshooting is needed. And second, we're living in a small place and we are citizens of the world. This being said, this small presentation will be about the team. Does Disciplined Agile make sense? I will do to the best of my ability. I will challenge this assumption, and at the end, I will give you my open conclusions. So this is about myself. In case such information may interest you, I don't know. This is about, I have currently more than 25 years of IT experience, including the most important 15 years of project program and PMO management. Okay, all the rest you can read on screen, perhaps quicker than I can read. Okay, so what do we have at our agenda today? The first item will be about putting Agile, Disciplined Agile into its context. And there will be some slides about the strange Agile world we are currently living in. I don't think you will be very I don't think you will think that this first part will be quite provocative, because it will present a lot of stuff that we encounter every day, you and me probably, in our daily practices. And then I will present Disciplined Agile at a glance, and then, but at the speed of talks, I have 5 Disciplined Agile highlights that may interest you. So let's start with putting Disciplined Agile in its context. Okay, so for those who like Lewis Carroll, this is a metaphor of a certain opinion we may have about the entire agility context at the moment. So it's now becoming a common sense that Agile is everywhere. Everybody is discussing about everywhere. You and me, as a project manager professional, we are deeply involved in this trend. But there is, yes, agility is everywhere, but I phrase the big picture, an opinion about the big picture this way. We have available, frankly, powerful agile approaches in our hands. Also, hundreds of tools and techniques that are agile oriented, but they are navigating on, let's say, chaos, often confusion, a lot of misinterpretation. More impactful, we also observe inefficient or even counterproductive use of agile tenets and agile practices. And also, I think we are all aware that there is a kind of over-promising marketing trap around the agile world. So if agility is everywhere, it's only my opinion. What I just quote looks to be also to be everywhere. In short, question marks at many levels, and this presentation will explain why disciplined agile may help in this world in this quite confusing world. Of course, this situation is not always the case, for sure. We all know organizations, and I hope this is the case for you, project, and for my own project, we can succeed, and there are a lot of success with companies and project managed with agile tools. So it varies from one organization to another, for sure. Nevertheless, I don't think it's provocative to say that many organizations are currently in a kind of middle of nowhere regarding agility, I mean in general. So the reasons of this are many, and I have no doubt that you all know all of them or a big part of them. I will come back to some of them, to highlight some of them because they are impactful or on our daily practice. And then I will introduce Disciplined Agile, because what Disciplined Agile does is to make some very practical and, let's say, pragmatic proposal to address the many issues I just described. No, this is definitely not my intention to have a dark picture of what happens for the moment. We think, I don't know for you, but we think to admit that it's a little bit improvable. Okay, so among the reasons why currently the agile landscape is, let's say, half tinted, not black and white, is the inherent richness and complexity of agility. From now on, 42 methodologies and agile frameworks exist, which are rooted in the agile principle. 42. In itself, it's not a problem in itself, quite the contrary, but it means that we have to handle it, and as project manager professionals, we have to identify what are the appropriate methods and what are the methods it give us value to invest our time or energy, whatever, in training, on-site experiments and the like. So we all know that there is no superstructure on top of agility, which is not the case, or more or less not the case for the traditional models. Those of you who are familiar with waterfall approaches, we all know that we have big standards. The PMBOK is one of them. The Prince2 Practitioner Guide is one of them. There are 2 or 3 big standards summarizing and giving a clear picture of the approaches, tools, and techniques for waterfall project. This is definitively not the case for Agile, with one exception, which is the book that accompanied the PMI ACP Agile Certified Practitioner. In my view, this is the first book, and this is a book I really recommend, that give us a quite complete picture of the Agile world and all the tools that are available for us today. It's really a brilliant book. So no superstructure. So to add the confusion, there is a trend. Again, I'm sure you already know it. And the trend consists of adding, let's say, something around the initial models. These trends can take 2 forms. First, the well-known agile scaling frameworks, okay, SAFe, Nexus, and the like. And there are also a second type of addition to the current to the existing agile models. So for the first category, we have Nexus, Spotify, Scrum at Scale, DSDM, Enterprise Scrum, Scale D, etc., etc. But regarding the second one, the additions, we have now a very big example dating from last week. Jeff Zetterland, as you know, the founder, one of the founders of Scrum, just start with an addition around Scrum. The name is Scrum Essence. Okay, so first, it's not always easy without investing like we can do as professionals to understand what are the content at different level of all the methodologies. One of the reasons is that there are constant additions and new frameworks popping up here and popping up there. Okay, so maybe, but the maybe is important in this case. We can view this as an attempt to deal with the limitations of the original models. But this is not entirely the reason why all those stuffs are for all the pieces of the puzzles seems to increase at the moment. Just a small remark, I don't have any audio feedback for the moment. I hope everything is okay on your side. So, a second reason of the half-tinted view we can have on the agile current state is that agile marketing doesn't help. For the moment, at the moment, more than 250 certification credential designation exist. Okay, for sure, they are all acronyms. Okay, because if those designations are not acronyms, there is no fun. So when you are HR and you have to pre-select an agile resource, you can try to understand what means by the acronym, because you have 250 certification naming available. So we also have 40 different certification bodies with both for the certification credentials and the certification bodies with quality and values disparities. On one extreme of quality, we have, of course, the gold standards. Who are the gold standards on the market? Clearly, Project Management Institute is one of the gold standards. It means also that the certification, including the Disciplined Agile certification, we have a guarantee of quality and also a guarantee of audience for our customer. The customer will hear a lot about because of the image, the bright image of Project Management Institute. Also, another high quality certification body is the APMG with the Prince2 Agile practitioner. In Scrum itself, for sure, what is delivered by Scrum org are references on the market. On the other extreme, we have very interesting proposals of some organizations that for 50 euros and half a day training, plus a test consisting on correct answers to less than 20 multiple choice questions, will transform us as project management rock stars. So those disparities are to take into account. Next, again, around the marketing, let's say, counterproductive effect, there is also an overpromising communication. If you have read the book, the Jeff Sutherland book, an excellent book in matter of content, but the title, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time, okay, looks fantastic. In particular, if you are a senior executive, but in the real world, last week, in the same article that I just mentioned from Jeff Sutherland, he mentioned that 48% of Scrum implementations fail. Okay, so there is no immediate relationship between the Scrum implementation failure and the overpromising communication, but in my opinion, there is a mix of the two. Another source of challenging, unclear global agility landscape, maybe that, as we know, there are suitability requirements when using whatever the model, agile methods. They only work provided the values and principles of agile are really present in the organization. It implies change management. This is well known. We are all aware of this. But there is a change in the perception currently. Previously, we tend to say, okay, if values like respect, transparency, and all the bundle of values proposed by the agile models were not present, okay, we can try to do it. Now the new trend insists more heavily on this. And in many cases, the presence or the absence of those values has now become a requirement for project success. Next, we also have the pitfall of adopting prescriptive agile methods and frameworks. A prescriptive agile methods, all the existing agile methods are prescriptive. Scrum, as an example, is very prescriptive. We know that we know by heart that there is the famous Scrum process and the like, with clear definition of the events, with the roles, etc. It's a prescriptive models. And also we have prescriptive frameworks. For instance, SAFe 2 as a scaling model is a very prescriptive framework. The problem with prescriptive methods and frameworks, according to Disciplined Agile, is that by nature, they never fit. They never fit the organization. It's like trying to put a square in a circle, and it creates one of the effects is that it created something named agile in named only, also named as faux agile. So it means we have a lot of agile symbols everywhere, posted on the boards and the like, and a kind of attitude, but in the real world, it's not really applying agile methods. So prescriptive agile method, this is one of the things DA point out, never can be implemented without being first carefully selected, and second, without being insufficiently contextually framed. We have proposals about this. I will come back a little bit later on those two interesting points. Then also, we also have a limited awareness of the agile approaches options. Why? The market and the top level in the companies, the strategics and the like, tend to focus on the most widely used or the most non-agile methods. Fortunately for us, Disciplined Agile is part of the most non-agile method. However, there is no all-fit-all solution according to Disciplined Agile. So we are available 42 different methods. Maybe we can shrink and restrict the selection to 10 or 20 major agile approaches, but the selection is not restricted to Scrum, Lean, and Kanban. Okay, that's what can have some counter effects when applying or when proposing to a customer to adopt agile methods. And I can continue like this, etc., etc. This is what agile in name only looks like. If it sounds familiar to you, I understand. Okay. So I continue to hope that you hear me correctly, because I have no audio feedback at all on my side. Let's move now to the core of this presentation, which is about Disciplined Agile. What is Disciplined Agile? Fundamentally, Disciplined Agile is a toolkit. What is the goal, the objective of those toolkit is to offer pragmatic responses to the majority of the current practice issues and limitations we are facing. Okay, sounds like a marketing phrasing, but I don't think it is. I don't think it is. No, to be honest, I have an assumption about this, is that Disciplined Agile, in my experience, is no quick fix. Clearly, not a magic wand, but in my analysis and experience, DA looks like the missing piece that bring the myriad of existing agile practices to the next level. Beyond the world, I will do my best to illustrate this assumption. So, because of time restrictions, I would limit the presentation of DA in itself to its formal official definition. And then we will move to the theme of, is it really valuable? Does it really make sense to adopt it? So there are three parts in the Disciplined Agile's definition. Okay, first, DA is a process decision toolkit. I will illustrate it in a few minutes. It's really a toolkit. It's important because it gives us the orientation, let's say, the pragmatic mindset behind the model. This toolkit provides straightforward guidance to help people, team, and organization to streamline their process in a context-sensitive manner. I will emphasize this on some themes of this definition. We will show some Disciplined Agile processes and the way they work, And the context-sensitive manner is a cardinal thing in Disciplined Agile. The second part of the definition is that Disciplined Agile provides, according to the founders, a solid foundation for business agility. How? By showing all the different various activities of the companies are working together. There is a contrast with such tailoring approach, taking into account, for instance, solution delivery, IT operation, enterprise architecture, portfolio management, security, finance, procurements, and the like, between this kind of larger and broader approach of everything what impact our agile project, then in some very construction or build-oriented models like Scrum. I have absolutely nothing against Scrum, but the Scrum critique made by DA also, in my experience, makes sense. Scrum is great, but exclude a lot of things that are necessary pieces to deliver a project correctly. Or again, an opinion. And the last part of the, let's say, formal definition is that DA also described what these activities should address and provide a range of options for doing so. I will illustrate it with a mindjet. So for each of the area impacted by the project, DA made some propose a lot of options, many options, and describe also what are the advantages and the disadvantages of each of the proposed options, which allow us to really scale the project and really adapt the project to the project management to the context. In case you are interested by an extended descriptions, let's say Disciplined Agile big picture, there is an excellent resource if you just go on the PMI org and you type Disciplined Agile. There is some pages that explain the same, but in a more detailed fashion. So there are many ways to make a mental construction of what really the Disciplined Agile is. The one I propose is that Disciplined Agile is a missing Agile project tailoring approach. This way, we can look at Disciplined Agile as, again, something that is missing, a tailoring level that is required and that will be applied or implemented both in the Agile implementation and our own daily practice. This missing tailoring level is available whatever the Agile model flavor we are using. Okay, so it's a top, a kind of a top level layer that allow us to really customize, really tailor the approach based on the specific requirements of each of our projects and the context, the organizational context we are living in. So, two key concepts to understand Disciplined Agile from this point of view is that Disciplined Agile is about first tailoring or customizing or scaling agility, and the second is about framing the Agile practice. I will develop it. So, from this point of view, Disciplined Agile is all about tailoring Agile project management. Now, a refresh, I'm sure. What is generic project management tailoring? Tailoring consists on the selection of the appropriate first project approach, for sure, including the methodology, including the life cycle, and then to select all the appropriate project management tools and project management techniques. This case by case for each project, and this taking in account the feasibility of applying them in the very unique and specific context of the organization. So for those who I've got maybe a little less familiar with project management jargon, this is what tailoring is, not specifically for Agile methods, but for the overall project management approaches. Now, tailoring is a critical project success factor, whatever Agile, waterfall, or hybrid. Structured tailoring approaches exist in waterfall. For instance, there is a chapter in the Prince2 standard that describes how to tailor Prince2. But to my knowledge, nothing exists about how to tailor, how to choose the right tool and the right method and the right approach. Nothing exists, to my knowledge, in the Agile area. DA is adding this to the Agile area. For sure, tailoring is considered as an advanced project management skill, and it is clearly the case. It requires two things. First, a very detailed knowledge of the standards, and second, it requires a lot of experience. But the form of the Disciplined Agile method being a toolkit may help to, let's say, reduce a little bit the complexity of an initial or an initiation project tailoring. Next, an initial project tailoring decision branch looks obvious, but not for all our stakeholders, is for a specific project, which of these three categories shall we use? Are we use waterfall, the sequential traditional approach? Are we use agile, iterative, or hybrid, which is a combination of waterfall and agile? For those who may be a little bit less familiar, a typical hybrid example can be, okay, we initiate and we build, let's say, I don't know, a new game software fully using agile methods, but for the going live, the going production stage, then we will switch from one model category, agile, to a pure waterfall and sequential distribution method. This is, to sum up, what hybrid method is. Now, this first branching and customizing is quite easy to do because there are selection criteria. But an important point, in sharp contrast with typical agile way of thinking, disciplined agile does not rule out the traditional waterfall option. Why? Provided it's the most appropriate category of model to use for a specific project. No, disciplined agile is not waterfall, focusing on waterfall, so there is no support of the waterfall approach. But it is not rolled out. So, what is disciplined agile tailoring? First, DA do not tailor or customize the existing agile model. If you are using Scrum, Lean, XP, FDD, and I can continue like this, DA have nothing to say of what occurs inside the model. DA doesn't change anything to Scrum, for example. But what DA is tailoring is the choice of the agile approach, a choice that will fit to the project type and the context. And the way, the proposed way consists on a selection in the toolkit between 6 agile different life cycles. So for this section, so the tailoring proposal, I will illustrate there are 2 concepts, the DA process goals and the DA supported life cycles that are part of this process. The second thing is that DA also tailor the relationship with the entire company process that are related to the process. For this second tailoring part, what will be used are what is called Disciplined Agile Process Blade. Now, the second component of the Disciplined Agile framing proposal is the DA framing. It means that Disciplined Agile put the agile practices, whatever they are, in phase with the business and the organization daily real world. How? By answering them with, for instance, lightweight agile governance, adding phases around the build phase, setting generic agile project milestones, updating agile role and responsibility, etc., etc. This, whatever the specific agile approach we are using. Okay, so again, to illustrate, if we are using, let's say, Scrum, we will add to Scrum without changing anything inside the model. We will add a lightweight agile governance. We will add also, prior to the construction phase, the build phase of Scrum, we will add an initiation phase and a phase after the build, the transition phase. Okay, so whatever the model, there are things that are added. Sorry, that are added outside of or around in order to frame those models in the organization. Okay, now we will have a look into the DA toolkit, a part of the DA toolkit. I will focus on the DA core process maps, and I will do this with Mindjet. Okay. Okay. I hope that all the moves on the screen will be not too hectic for you. Okay. There are three big areas related to processes in DA. First is the Disciplined Agile Process Blade. Disciplined Agile Process Blade a process blade, according to DA definition, encompasses a cohesive aspect of your overall organizational process. Okay, so each DA process blade addresses a specific organizational capability. For instance, data management, continuous improvement, or security. So the general picture of process blade is this one. We do not have the time to go to dig it, but there are different layers in DA models regarding the process blade. Perhaps this view illustrates more. So this is on top of the process blade. We have enterprise architecture, people management, asset management, and the like, legal. Okay, so in the Disciplined Agile Toolkit format, you find process blades for all of those areas. Let's select one of them. Okay, let's say finance. Okay, and as you can read on the screen, okay, I'll try to. Okay, so the finance process blade address the strategies for how to finance our agile team, how to approach the financial reporting, which is often challenging, as you know, in agile projects, and how to budget the flexibility due to the fact we are using agile methods. Okay, I can continue. Same for the legal department. So the relationship between these organizations and the project are addressed by the toolkit, making a lot of suggestions, proposition, best or good practices, and the like. Process blades are organized in 4 levels. Now, next point is about the process goals. The big pictures of the process goal is that process goal, also named process capability, are, let's say, process decision points for a specific area in the project. Better than discussing about this view, I will take an example. So there are 4 process goal levels in DA. For the inception process goal, it means at the very beginning of the project, what do we have to address? So the big picture is the following. The process goals are split depending on the phase of the project, the inception, the construction, and the transition. Okay? So if we take a process that is part of the inception process goals, okay, let's take a one we are all familiar with, which is the form team. It means it describes that at the beginning of the project, yes, we need to form a team that will deliver the solution. Okay. For each of these processes, DA gives an accurate description of what is the role of this process, what describes this process. Okay, this is on the upper part of the screen, but okay, due to time restriction, I will move on. So just to know that for each of these processes, there is a clear description. Second, for each of these processes, the reason why we need this process, or in some cases, the reason why we don't need this process for a specific process. In this case, as we are discussing about building the initial team, yes, we need this. But for other cases, other processes, we can select specific processes that are useful or not for the specific project. Now, what Disciplined Agile Toolkit provides is also, regarding each of the process, a very simple list of, let's say, commonplace questions. It's kind of checklist of the many questions we may have around one specific process. Okay, just to illustrate it, it looks like to be quite naive, but this list, in my experience, is very helpful because we don't forget any point, any important point. So, as a question, how large should be the team? Yes, it's clear that it's the kind of questions we have to address at the beginning of the project, depending on the size of the project. So this is a kind of checklist. So for this example, which is a well-known example, a well-known process, looks like to be maybe a little bit, naive or simplistic, but for more complex processes, like financial processes or purchasing processes, for me, this kind of very quite basic or relatively basic questions is really useful. And then for the same process, we have a process decision map. So around this, in this specific example, we are in the initiation phase process form team. If I scroll down, here are the many options we can customize or inputs we need to correctly customize to adapt our specific project to its team, its content, and to the organization. In this case, as you can read at the bottom, okay, what will be the availability of team members? Then, on this part, we have the choices proposed by Disciplined Agile. Again, this is a very obvious example, but project yourself, and I do the same myself, in areas that are more sophisticated. So this I would like to. Okay, I try to zoom a little bit. So anyway, so for this one, from the bottom to the top, we have an arrow. The arrow indicates that according, but this is not de facto, but according to the overall Agile experience, the lower choice are the less, let's say, efficient. But for sure, due to constraints, sometimes we have to choose for a lower valuable decision. So in the case of the availability of our team member, okay, the first options is, okay, we receive people as we need, okay, when they are available. But the one of you who are experienced know what I mean, okay? Oh no, our marketing specialist will not be available for the test period, okay? Or no, I refuse to commit my sales on your project because of this and that, okay? So this is one of the options. The second option, a little bit better, is of course to have an ongoing part-time team, okay? A semi-dedicated team, and of course, top of the top, when feasible, is to have a dedicated team, okay? So, and it continues like this for every, we have different decision points, okay? So I hope it clarifies a little bit the way the toolbox work. And then we also have a third aspect, which is the decision, the decision path, the decision tools regarding what Agile lifecycle will we use. Those are the supported Agile styles, Agile project cycle supported by Disciplined Agile. And again, we have for each of them, if we start with a Scrum-based Agile lifecycle, for each of them, we have a description of when to use Scrum, for example, and when not. This is a good illustration, I think. Scrum is primarily used for enhancements according to Disciplined Agile standards. And now the second sentence, Agile in general, or Scrum, falls apart when the requirements often change. Then, in the Disciplined Agile Toolkit, we will have a reorientation to another branch, and DA will help us to select a most appropriate tool. Okay, 2 seconds. Excuse me. Message. Okay. So we now have, I think, 3 minutes to summarize this. It's really a pity that I do not have any audio interface. So let's finish with a selection of 5 highlights I selected. First highlight, Disciplined Agile is an agnostic hybrid approach. On the right, we have the many flavors of Agile methods. And on the left, we have an illustration of a specific tree and a cultivation method which transform hectic cedars into very straight branches. It's a Japanese method. Okay, anyway, so this is the first highlight. For me, it's a metaphor of what Agile is really doing by installing tailoring layer. Second highlight, Disciplined Agile adds an inception phase and a transition phase around the construction phase. The construction phase here, you can insert every current Agile models and technique. What is missing is an inception and a transition. Just an example, at the end of the inception, we can create a lightweight project charter instead of starting immediately like preconized or recommended by Scrum. Okay. A third highlight, also across all the models, DA recommends 6 generic milestones. I will not develop them, but at the end of the inception, we need to have the stakeholder vision, which is the equivalent of a project chart. Then we have to prove in a short term after starting the project that we have a proven architecture. Okay, those are 6 generic milestones Agile propose. Then we already see that Agile supports different Agile life cycles. An interesting update made by Disciplined Agile model is about the project role. First, Disciplined Agile use generic Agile role and responsibility naming. For instance, a team member can be a Scrum Master, but in DA environment, we are using a team lead. And the second thing is that the product owner, which typically is not part of the team roles, is now inside of the DA roles. So for fourth highlight, for me, my experience, DA is very simple to apply, can be applied gradually, and something, an extra feature for us is that as project manager professional, this toolkit can be used to enhance our own practice, even if Disciplined Agile is not used officially within a project organization. As demonstrated, you and me, we can open mind maps or heuristic maps, scroll down and select options or enrich our knowledge or have a better idea of the point of attentions we need to have around for our project on specific processes. Finally, business agility encompasses the whole system. Okay, and this is precisely what DA is doing or is trying to do. There are many more items. An open conclusion And I have a message for Ardika. Ardika, I have no feedback, so please chat me if we do not have more available time. I don't know. So as an open conclusion, I typically don't like romanticism. I mean, in the professional sector. The private, it's another story. Anyway, but I will make an exception today in my open conclusion. If we move back for one instance to what is project management quintessential raison d'être? Okay, we practice this, we are all involved and we are all practitioners in this area because all, without exception, all project management consists on achieving or materializing changes. Okay, you don't learn something; it's obvious, but sometimes it's a good idea to repeat it. Materialize the changes. Two objectives: first, or improve a situation, or second, to solve an issue. In this matter, I think it's a commonplace. It's an understatement to say that we are currently facing quite complex and challenging situation, full of black swans. COVID-19 is not the only one, but okay, we are clearly in need of both improving situation and solving issues. And our discipline, the discipline of project management we are all specialized in, is precisely dedicated to make things as the change or the issue occur. So obviously, it's a basic example. COVID-19 vaccine, of course, there are a lot of people like us, project managers, that are working in life sciences company for the company. It means that, and this is an opinion and my open conclusion, for me, in such a context, every improvement to the efficiency of the tools of that are available for us as project managers, even minor improvements to these models become priceless or have a very high value. For me, in my own analysis, disciplined agile appears to be a major improvement or a major potential improvement to our own practices. Thank you very much. I will try to reach